What's good, YouTube? It's your man D-Man, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over the 6 Invitational 2023. This video will be focusing on Group A, while the next few videos will be focusing on Group B, C, and D. But today, we're going to focus on A. Now, I know I haven't made many videos about the subject, but I have been watching the scene since 2020 SI. That's not that long. I'm not an OG boomer here. But I've been in the scene long enough to kind of see how things are going and to be enthralled with some of the storylines. Another thing of note, don't go look up dreams_OCG. Don't look up my PSN on R6 Tracker because, yikes, that KD is not great. I did make it out of gold though. It took rank 2.0 though, so I mean, that's not saying much, is it? Enough about me, let's talk about the actual high-level pro league players, and we're gonna start with Group A's number 1 team, W7M. W7M is my number 1 team in the world. I gave every team an ELO ranking, and W7M came out as the number 1 team. The ELO ranking, by the way, is just looking at wins, losses, and the talent level they started at, and I really did not account for where they're at now because I figured that playing the games would do that, but in some cases it didn't. So I might have to tweak that for next year. But for this year, W7M was number 1, and I kind of agree with it. I think that they've been the most consistent team this year, despite not making a grand final in any of the 3 majors they made it to. But considering this was the first 3 majors this organization has gone to, it's been a pretty successful year for W7M. They rank out in Emerald 1 with the ELO score of 5,015. They were number 1 in Brazil, all 3 stages in BR6. Now, that's not looking at Copa de Elite, that's looking at the BR6 numbers. Charlotte, they were not so great, 9th through 12th. However, they did have visa issues and were playing for Mexico and had more wins than G2, despite not moving on to the next round. There's a bunch of volatile things to talk about Charlotte, so I'm not really going to hold Charlotte against W7M here. But in Berlin and Sweden, I will, because they played super high level Siege in both of them and came up a little bit short 3rd or 4th. Now it takes a little bit to kind of learn how to win this, so I'm not going to take too much away from that. The only things I will take away from are they're getting close. They're getting closer and closer to grand finals stage, and this could be their shot. This could be W7M's time to take it, just like BDS did at Sweden. Yes, I'm not trying to say the actual place of Sweden because there's no way I am pronouncing that right. I'm not even going to try it. If you look at W7M stats, though, it's pretty impressive. In BR6, they went 22-5. That's nuts. And then at the majors, they went 19-9, which is also nuts. If you look at the main group of guys, Herds has been there the longest, and he's been a really solid player for them. But it really comes down to Kai's, JV92, and Volps. Mainly Kai's. Kai's is one of the best players in Siege right now. JV92 and Volps are both very high-level players as well. They have 4 very good fraggers. Then Julio, who has been a solid player and has championship pedigree, and I think that's kind of what W7M was banking on. They were looking around, trying to find a veteran guy that has won it before, and they did it. Julio might be the perfect guy. If you look at their head-to-head matchups in Group A, they have none against SSG and none against Koi, but they do against Elevate and G2. If you look at the Elevate games, they won 7-3, lost 5-7, and won 8-6. So a competitive series between these two, but they won it 2-1. They're 2-0 against G2 as well, but those games weren't just blowouts. 8-6, 7-4 were pretty tight. So look at the head-to-head. I think W7M has a pretty big advantage in this group. I think they're the best team by far here. But on the other hand, I don't think these games are just going to be complete stomps. I don't think any team here is bad, and every team here is going to have to work for it. This might be my group of death. I have not made up my mind yet. On the other hand, I give W7M a 99.6% chance to make it out of groups. There's always a chance that they just blow it, and you have teams like SSG and Koi, who I believe could be very high level, and Elevate actually. Let me not leave Elevate out here. They have played very high level Siege at times. And G2, who I think is a sleeper team to play well. Benjameister could step in and be really good. We're just going to have to see how it works out. Moving on to the second highest rated team in this group, Space Station. They're ranked 6th out of the world, which is a little higher than I think they are, but that puts them in Emerald 2 with an ELO score of 4,380. Now, Space Station, I think, is probably more like the 3rd best team in this group. However, they have the ability to be the second best team here, I believe. Space Station had to fight for it. They did not play too well in the NAL. 5th place stage 1, 9th place stage 2, 3rd place stage 3, and they didn't do great at Sweden. 9th through 12th is where they placed. So they had to go through the closed qualifiers and they made it. It's all that matters. And they're here. If you look at their stage results, they were only 14 and 13. Not a great plus minus there. And they were 3 and 3 of the majors. So pretty close to even both times. This has been a very down year for Space Station. If you look at the 3 mainstays, Rampy, Bosco, and Foltz, none of them put up great numbers either at NAL or at the Sweden Major. And guys like Hot and Cold, who have been really good for them at times, have again not really putting up great numbers this year. And then we look at their newest add-in, Yeti, who has played, I thought he's played pretty well. His numbers don't look just great or anything, but I feel like he brings a little oomph to the team, and they were kind of lacking that for some parts of the year. Now, don't let these stats fool you. They still have some of the best players in NA. Rampy, Hot, and Cold are 2 really good North American players. Bosco and Foltz have both also won the SI before. So, Space Station might be a little bit of a sleeper pick to upset some teams. But if you look at the head-to-head, there's not much to go off of. They haven't played W7M, they haven't played Elevate, and they haven't played G2 since SI 2022. They have played Koi though, but that was all the way back at SI 2022, where they won 7-5 both times. Space Station's kind of a tough team for me to rank because I do believe in a lot of these players. I just haven't seen what I would like to see from them. I give them probably like a 75% chance to make it out of this group. Actually, no, I'm bumping that down to 60% now that I think about it a little bunch. But I'm not too confident in them, but I think they have a lot of upside here. The next team we're going to talk about from Group A is number 11 overall, Koi. Now, Koi is Rogue, Rogue is Koi. We're going to have to get this through our heads. It's going to take a little bit of an adjustment, period. And Koi is my first Plat team from Group A, ranking in at Plat 1 with the ELO score of 4,225. Now, the stage placements have been solid, but they haven't been what I would have expected from a major winner. Stage 1, they were 5th place. Stage 2, they got 2nd. And Stage 3, they got 6th. Which means they missed Charlotte and Sweden, but they made it to Berlin, and boy, did they play well. They got first. That's the best I've seen Koi play, I think, since I've started watching Siege, honestly. If you look at their EUL stats, they are 15 and 12, and that's not just a great differential, but it's positive. And their major differential is 11 and 5, which is much better. Looking at the core of this team, Cryan, DP, Cantor-Raketti, Leon, and Spoit. There's a lot of upside here, especially with Cryan and Spoit. Spoit, if y'all haven't seen him play, and I would kind of say Bolo-esque. He plays a lot like him in the kind of similar spots at sometimes, and he brings a lot of enthusiasm to the scene, honestly. So I think Spoit is a very good player and a big reason why they won Berlin. On the other end of things, you have 3 really solid players in DP, Cantor-Raketti, and Leon Gids that have kind of manned down those 4. They haven't got the stats to kind of back it up, but they've done their roles to get them wins, and then Cryan is the other superstar alongside Spoit. Koi, on the other hand, has a lot to go off of compared to the other teams. They haven't played W7M, but they have played SSG, Elevate, and G2. They're 0-2 against SSG, but again, that was a long time ago. That was SI 2022, where they lost 5-7 both times. Elevate, they also played at SI 2022 and lost in a best of 3, or best of 2, I guess. They lost the first game 7-3. They won the next game 7-3, and then they lost 7-8. However, they are 4-1 against G2, and while all the green on the screen looks like they've dominated, I'm going to kind of hold back on that statement, because if you look at some of these wins, a 8-7 and an 8-6, both at a major, so that was 2 games that could have gone either way that were really close. Then you got the 2 blowouts, 7-1, 7-2, that was in stage 2 and 3. But stage 1, G2 got them, 5-7. So I'm not saying this is just a Koi's better than G2. I think they are, but I think Koi needs to kind of pay attention to G2. They've been really close with them at times, and this could be an interesting best of 2. Koi, on the other hand, I'm a little more confident in making it to the next round. I'm giving them a 70% chance to make it to the playoff stage. Really, they just don't need to play like they did in stage 3. And I think they'll have it. They've had plenty of time to kind of come off that win and kind of get grounded, so I believe that they'll do a lot better. Next up, we're talking about Elevate Esports, which is actually just 1 global spot behind Koi at number 12. Elevate is they're the darling of APAC in my opinion. They are the best team in APAC. Even whenever Damwon Kia was at their peak, I think they're still the best team from APAC. They rank out at Plat 1 with an ELO score of 4,195, and they've been pretty good in APAC South. Got second place in stage 1, first place in stage 2, and then fourth place in stage 3, which honestly isn't great in APAC South because you have to be top 2 to make a major. So it's a little different than other regions. Looking at their majors, they actually didn't get to play in 2 of them. One of them was their own fault for getting fourth place in stage 3. But at Charlotte, they had visa issues and couldn't play, and that's really disappointing. I would have really liked to get some more data points there. But in Berlin, they proved that they can play at an international level, 5th through 8th after look at it. Look at their 2022 SI run. A lot of people could have been like, yeah, but are they actually that good? Or was that just kind of a one-off? Berlin kind of proved to me that, hey, Elevate can play at an international level. They've done it twice now, 5th through 8th. Again, not world-breaking, but they were really, really competitive with W7M, one of the best teams in the world. If you look at Elevate's stats in APAC South, they were 12 and 8. Again, not just overwhelming, but they were good enough. At the majors, they're 5 and 4, which again, not overwhelming, but that's pretty good. The core of the team has been switched around a little bit this year. Angry X having to come in, who hasn't really played this year. But, you got Sapper, Mark, Super Onigiri, and DCH. Super Onigiri is the superstar of this team. If he plays well, this team will be good. Just look at that 28 kills he got on Oregon last year at SI. Super Onigiri he's a freak, man. He's really good. Looking at their resume against other teams, they don't have much to go off on an SSG or G2, but they do have games against Koi and W7M. Both of these series were really competitive. They are 2-1 against Koi, 1-2 against W7M. Koi, again, they won that really tough series at SI, 7-3, they lost 3-7, 1-8-7. W7M, they lost a really tough series at Berlin, losing 3-7, coming back to win a 7-5, just to lose in overtime 8-6. Elevate is kind of a sleeper team for me. I don't know what you're going to get from Angry X or Sapper, Mark, and DCH, but I know what I'm going to get from Super Onigiri, and that's kind of what gives me hope that Elevate will make it. I will say Elevate, I could see slipping up here. Elevate, I'm going to get a 52% chance to make playoffs. I do think they could slip up here, but they played very well against W7M. And then they did play very well against Koi last time in SI. I think they're going to be a competitive team here, but I could see them slipping up. And this is a very hard region, so 52 I think is the highest I can go. Lastly, we're going to talk about G2. They are the number 16 team in the world right now, according to my ELO rankings. Ranking in at a Plat 1 with an ELO score of 4,125. G2 is one of the, if not the top brand in R6 history, but they haven't been too great this year. 4th place in stage 1, 4th place in stage 2, stage 3, kind of a dud, a 7th place finish. However, they did play pretty decent at the majors. They made it 5th through 8 in Charlotte, 5th through 8 in Berlin. Now against Charlotte, there was a little bit of weird stuff going on with W7M's visas. They couldn't get in. And G2 kind of took advantage of that, and hey, they played fairly well in both majors, I thought. If you look at their stats in the EUL, they are 13 and 13. That's not too great. At the majors, on the other hand, they are 7 and 9, which again, not too great. But if you look at the roster is really solid. Virtue, solid. Alamo, I think, is pretty slept on. Benjameister, I think, is one of the best up-and-coming European players. Now, he hasn't had a lot of international experience, and it kind of showed in his first major, but we'll see. Doki, again, a very hot and cold player. Reminds me a lot of hot and cold from SSG. And then Blur, who, again, Blur hasn't been just great or anything, but he's kind of solid. That's what they need. They got Virtue, Alamo, Benja, Doki, all fraggers, guys that can get a lot of frags. Blur doesn't have to do that job. He kind of just needs to do his job, so I'm not really going to dock him for the 0.85 in EUL. Looking at the resume, they haven't played SSG or Elevate, but they have played Koi and W7M. It hasn't gone their favor either time. They're 1-4 against Koi and 0-2 against W7M. Now, they have been competitive in both series, so don't let the swarm of red fool you. Other than the 2-7 and the 1-7 against Koi, every game here has been at least competitive. So I don't think G2 is going to go away here without a fight. I'm giving them a 45% chance to make playoffs. My big thing is they could catch a team like SSG, Koi, Elevate. I don't know. I mean, they played competitively against W7M. Like, this is just a dark horse team that I have no clue what they're going to do. But right now, they're my lowest rated team. Okay, that is the profiles of each and every Group A team. Now, where do I see them finishing in the standings? This one's tough for me. Really tough. So my number 1 team is W7M. I think that's my most confident pick. Number 2, I'm going to go with Koi. This one's tough. My number 3 is Elevate. I know the percentage on Elevate to make the playoffs wasn't great because there's a little bit of I'm just a little nervous with the Angry X and stuff like that. However, I think they're the 3rd best team here. And then SSG 4, G2 5. I think this is probably the most competitive group out of all of them. And it's a really tough one to call, but that's how I see it going right now. A big shout out to anyone that watched the whole video. It really helps the algorithm and helps me reach more R6 Pro League fans. I kind of want to do a little bit more of this. I'll let my audience kind of dictate how much more of this. I mean, you can obviously tell I put a little bit into this. I've been doing this all year, actually. The ELO ranking, I did it on my own. I kind of just thought, hey, I have these ELO rankings. Why don't I just show other people? If they might be shit, I might get shit about it. But I just wanted to show everybody what I had. Yeah, anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye.